Hi, Ray and Chris. How are you?
Hey, doing okay.
Okay.
How are you doing?
I'm okay. I just got our refrigerator went bad.
Oh yeah, I had that happen over the beginning of the summer. Or that's when.
Yeah, I had one for a long time, like 10 years, and the
Mhm.
hottest week was last week or the week before it died, and everybody is sold out. So Labor
Oh,
Day came around, I had to go to like 4 stores just to find something. But it finally came yesterday, and it was just scrambling to get whatever food that was still savable in the
mm,
fridge. Yeah, but yeah, other than that, everything's okay, just intense, busy.
it's good you found one.
Yeah, I had to buy it online. There was nothing available, in the store. Everybody's sold out, so. But I'm building a computer. Let me show you guys real quick for my other class.
Oh really? Fun.
Actually, let me plug in my other camera. We have a few minutes, so. Well, I had gone to I don't know why it's doing that. I had gone I had gone to Micro Center to pick up some parts, like right near Labor Day, and it was very busy there too. But I will put stuff on YouTube video. So I seeded the motherboard, but I haven't had time to do the rest. I'm recording YouTube video at the same time for my computer repair class. It's nothing crazy. It's not like a super nice gaming system, but I picked up the Sapphire. This is the 8 gig with the VDR5, I believe, and it's like a couple hundred. And then I got the Ryzen 5 Matisse, which is 3600. It rated at 3.8 without turbo. And then I picked up 32 gig of RAM from 2 stores. I picked one up from Amazon. So this is the Crucial that I got from Micro Center. It was like $50, 40% off. And then I got the Patriot. And then I picked up a couple of the smaller SSD because I intended to put, because on this motherboard they only have it only has like, I believe 2 or 3 slots for SATA. So I picked up little ones, and then I have a WD for the M.2. And it's a lot more difficult doing YouTube video as you install this because, I have to like do multiple takes, and then I have to repeat the steps so I can, because, yeah, so it's, I intend it to be shorter and then it just take a longer time. But anyway, the YouTube video should go up hopefully by Friday, but if I have time to work on it tomorrow. It's just we
Nice.
have a lot of stuff to do. But yeah, nothing too crazy. I'm fan cooling the system. I decided not to do liquid cool. I did look at some liquid cool when I was at the Micro Center because they were on sale. And then I always favor more on like open system. So I thought about buying just like a glass panel with the metal frame. They sell it for $30 online and also in the store. And then, I have a bunch of Lego pieces, and so I was gonna do the rubber ducky yellow, um, just build it on the outside and then have it open up and then just fan cool it. But
That would
just
have been funny.
yeah, I wanted to do it for, the cyber camp kids and stuff like that. So hopefully I'll be able to do it like during the winter break or something. So I'm gonna probably build another one. But this is the case I had for a long time. I bought it when I was at COD. I bought a couple of cases. They used to be like $30, $40. And then recently, because of the demand, everything went up in price. So all the cases that you see that are kind of nicer, they're like in the 100, at least, you know, $70 and up. So I found a couple of cases in my garage that's still in the box, and so I was like, oh, I'll just build another computer. You know, I love it. This is like my thing, you know, that's my hobby. So
Oh yeah,
anyway,
it's extremely fun. I love doing it myself.
yeah, you know, you learn to troubleshoot at the same time, but I used to build systems for people all the time. But yeah, so when we get back on campus, hopefully I'll be able to bring in my couple of new builds and show you guys. Um, you know, I would go with like the Ryzen 7, but it's like $400 and up for the processor right now. And so anyway, just to share.
I'd
I
love to
would,
see the Lego one.
yeah,
Just
I'll
bring
let
that
you
in. I'll have to
know.
come see.
I have part of it kind of built like the base, but I just never got a chance to finish the rest because you know you kind of have to plan out on how you configure the pieces. But I have like 3,000 yellow Lego pieces that I bought years
Wow.
ago. So it's gonna be somewhat pretty big. I have shipped down one of the frame from one of my old case. It's like a little bit. It's like a full ATX case. So. Sorry, I'm just geeking out on
That's what we're
on
supposed to be doing
computer
here,
build.
isn't it?
Yeah, I know. All right, so let's talk about Python now. Um, so today we don't have that long of a lab, but I want to kind of touch on the things that we didn't really get to work on during the assignments, and then kind of preview the for loop for next week. Uh, I know, Sean. I get lost in Market Center all the time. Like my husband had to drag me out that day because there was so much traffic during the Labor Day weekend. But anyway, so I am gonna go into screen share. If you have any questions, let me know. So I pre-built some of the programs and so I can show you. But please download Lab 4. And then we're going to talk about what we need to do as far as the program. And if you have any questions or anything, let me know. I saw Sean's message. It's funny. Okay. So for today, we are going to mainly work on string methods and some of the things that we want to do. I thought it would be kind of useful, especially if you're making an app or if you're doing stuff that needs to convert string or change string into a certain format, whatnot. But today we are mainly gonna focus on slicing. So let me hit share screen here. I feel a little bit better now that I got like more than 4 hours sleep. Yesterday was. Okay, so make sure that we download this and don't forget we have a homework assignment, which is not due until next week, so it gives you some time. Next week we're gonna have a quiz, so the homework assignment is gonna preview the quiz. And you can, you know, look it over and study or prepare for the quiz. So in our lab, oh yeah, sorry, I got a USB. Okay, it should be okay now. It doesn't like sharing the path there. I gotta fix that. Okay, so for this lab, we will do a few, actually about 7 of the programs. Some programs a little longer than other, but you can whip this up before the time ends. And if we finish early, we'll end the session early, okay? For the first question, it asks you to create a Python program, and you simply going to have a variable that's going to contain a string, which is your full name, and then you're going to use index sequencing to display only your last name. So for example, my name is Casey Nguyen, then I would slice it where it would only show my last name. So now if you wanted to add your middle name, then you just got to make sure that you count the index in order to really show your last name. So our focus is to display only our last name, and we want to use index sequencing. So there are two ways to do this, right? We can use, if you look at the notes previously, you can use from 0 to, you know, a certain index where your first name is cut off, or you know, and then count it to where your last name would be, or we can go in reverse, which is going to be from the last character in that string that's part of your last name going left. So if you wanted to know what index sequencing is and you missed the assignment that we did the other day, then you can go back to the notes. It shows you various examples on how to use that. So the way that we can slice it is that one way is to use indexing. The other way that we can slice it, later on we'll talk about how to use slice. And so what we can do is we can manipulate it where we only show a certain character that will be our last name. So let me get idle open here. Oops. So you can see. And so I'm going to go ahead and open one of my files. I previously wrote this. So as you play with it a little bit, you will see. So what we want is we want to use and it just takes like 2 lines. So easy, right? We want to use the index. And remember that the first letter is going to be index 0, right? So my letter K here shows index 0. And then if we go to the right, if we keep moving right, we would have A as 1, S as 2, etc. So now if I count this, my first name has 5 characters. And then we want to count the space at 6. So that's going to be your starting point, right? Because if you get into 7, it's going to cut off the next one. So we want to go to 6, because from 0, we're going to count right. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So what we want is we want from 6 to the end of this, and I'm using positive value for the index going from left to right. That's at the beginning of your notes. So you simply put the index in the square brace, and what you want to do is you want to bring down that variable name and put it inside the parameter. So basically you're saying that you are going to display these characters in that index range from that string inside the variable my name. Now, depending on your first name, how long it is or how short it is, right? You just gotta count it, and then just gotta make sure that you have the placement for the start right before your first name here, because we added that space, so we have to treat it as a white space. So for Python and indexing, it sees that white space as a location of another character. So we have to include it. And for my last name, I have to go all the way to the end. Okay, and you want to enclose your string, of course, with the single or double quotation mark, that's fine. So when I run this, it should only show my last name. Okay. And yes, you can do this in shell as well, but right, if we write it as a program, and we can save it so that way later on we can go in and change it or add more to it or whatever, that will be okay too. Okay, so that would be simply using index for string slicing. Now, if we go in reverse, you got to be careful because you have negative indexing, and when you are specifying the index, right? Python, technically, if you start from a point, it's going to want that value to be lower. Otherwise, you have to include the third parameter to tell it what to do. So it's a little tricky using the other way around, but you can definitely do that. Okay, any question? So this is an example for number 1. Okay, create a variable, assign it a string that has your full name, and then use print to display the group of characters inside that variable. No question? Okay, so let me see if I can make it a little larger. Okay, now we're slightly larger. So once you have your file, you can save it and then run, or if you're doing it in shell, when each line is going to try to interpret. Okay, so take a screenshot for me when you finish the number 1. Very easy. Make sure we count our indexes here for our names. Okay, so take a screen capture that shows your script and your output for number 1. For number 2, it asks you to create a variable that would have a string that would have your first name. And we want to use index sequencing to print your first name backward. So here what we can do is we can use, because it's going in reverse, right? Because we intend to show from the last character first, because we wanted to swap it so it's backwards. Then we should use negative index value. So my name should show with the Y first, and then it's going to spell it backward. So what we want to do is we want to use negative index value to show the first name backwards. So let me open up my program so I can show you. I have one saved for the first name. Let me close that one. Okay. So, oh no, this is different. Sorry, wrong file. Okay, there it is. Okay, so here's what I did. I have a variable that has a string, so I declare it, and then I assign it a string, and in the string that this is the first name. And then I simply use a print method, and I bring down the variable name, and inside the parameter, I also include the index. And remember, we want to go from -1, which is the placement right here. So that way we would have it from the last character first. And what we want to do is, if you use the colon and not specify anything else, that will bring it to the end of your string there, because we don't want to have to say from -1 to whatever. We can just say that we're going to go from -1 to the end of that string. So what it will do is it's going to print this from Y to E to S to A to capital K, and the capital K will be last. So when I run the module, as you can see, it just flip it around and it's going to print the last character first and then the first character last. Okay. So this is a way that we can use the index to this and print method to really display, you know, however we can manipulate it to display a specific way. And we simply use the negative index instead of the positive index to show from the back to the front, okay, from right to left. Okay, so that's one way. And if you do your full name, right, and you can also do your full name, so it should be able to adjust it based on how you assign your string value. So 2-line for that one as well, super fast, short and sweet. Any question on this? And this, you know, it doesn't have to be this approach, right? I just found that this would be the easiest, but you can also do it other ways. So there are many ways that we can go about creating our program, but you know, this is the way that I chose to use. So I just want to show you this is one way. Okay, any question? So here we saw printing our name backwards. And then the first one that we saw was to print our last name only. Okay, so no question on that one. So that takes care of 1 and 2. Okay, so for 3, before 3, I kind of wanted to go back and review a little bit about slicing, and then I want to introduce a new concept by adding some of the notes for you there. So what we can do is we can use slice, and slicing is a way that we would obtain characters or substring inside a string, and we would have it start and end in a certain area, or start and end with a specific character in range. Okay, very much like indexing, but what we will be using is the constructor. So there are 2 ways that we can go about slicing. You already saw in number 1 and 2 that we would use indexing, and you would put the index in the square brace. In the string slicing, you simply use slice constructor. And what the constructor do, and we talk about the constructor as a way that it would map for that object. And object, simply think of it like a container, a location where it would place these characters that you selected, you obtain from the original string. Okay, so the object would contain the indices from that range that you specify. So in the parameter for slice, if we want to specify the range, we would have a start, where we want to begin, a stop, a position where we want to end, and the step is how it's going to move across. Okay, either we're going right to left or left to right. So we're still using the indices. However, we're just going to position it for the specific area to bring that into the object, so that way the constructor can tie your other method to be able to display, like print, or you utilize other method to map it to that particular object. Okay, and in object-oriented language, you would see this a lot. You would be able to use constructor with object to really
access pieces of that object or certain thing inside that container, inside that object. Okay. Now, as in any container, we have to identify what that object is called. We got to give it a name because the computer would only have a memory location where it would store that object. But we have to, as human, we have to name it, we have to identify it, so that way it would be given a label so we can point to that label. Okay, so in the syntax, if you can simply use slice and a stop. Okay, so if I say slice at this position, okay, or we can use start, stop, and step for the range on where it start, where it stop, and how it moves across, right? Because sometimes we can slice and not have to show every character in that range. We can skip some of the characters. So how do we want it to step through each of the character? So here it tells you what each part means. Start index, ending index. And then for the step is an argument that's going to increment between the start and the stop for each of the index. Okay, so if we wanted to skip every other, then we would use 2. If we want to skip 2, then we would use 3, and so forth. So it's how it's going to move across as an argument. Okay. So you saw some of this in the notes already, very similar to that, but this time we're using the constructor instead of a method. So here, the example is that I have str1, and this is my variable. And I want to assign it the word Python with a capital P, or the string Python. And what I want to do is I want to create identifier to really store the character that I'm slicing, that I bring out from my original string. Okay, so I would slice. So what I can do is I can slice 4. Okay, what that will do is it's gonna automatically, because I want to stop at index 4, that's what I'm saying, right? So it's gonna go through the first 4 characters starting at 0, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, and then it stops at 4. So if you don't want to show the O in Python, you stop at 4, because that will be the 5th character, right? That's the index. So we want to stop at 4. So I can do a slice 4, and it's only going to show that portion. So this would also work with your number 1 as well, if you want to do slice constructor for that. So I simply create a location where I'm going to store those characters when I slice, because we want to be able to pull that for print later. Okay. So my first slice, I use FS, and you can name it however that would be easy for you. And then second, for my second slice, I call it SS. And what I want to do is I want to start at the second character, which is the Y. Okay. And then I wanted to go to the third, or yeah, so the second going into the third position. So it's gonna get to the index 3, or right at that, and it's gonna stop. And then I'm gonna get it to step 5. Okay. So here, what it does is it's gonna give me only Y, because number 1, we started at the second, which is Y. And then if we want to get to the next one, so it won't show me the T, because it's going to put the marker right there at the 2, but or after the 2, but I told it to skip 5, so it's not going to show me THON following, okay? Because here I start at the Y here, okay? And I told it to skip 5, so it's gonna forget about the T even though I told it to stop at 3, okay? So this step argument is important and also impact how you set up that range, right? Now, if we modify that and we reduce that to a lower number, we potentially can show more character with the arguments that we chose, okay? The range and how it moves across, okay? Since I told it to step 5, it's gonna forget about THON. And remember that the step is optional, right? So, but that's kind of showing you how that could be done. And then the third slice, I chose to use the negative index. So we're gonna go from the back, which is the N from the right-hand side. So we're gonna start at -1, and again, we're gonna move across to index -3, but I want to skip, or I want to step 6. So of course it's not going to show anything else because here's the start for that one, okay? And then it's going to step 6, so it's going to skip all of the ones following the -1. So because if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is no more, right? So it's going to not show anything else except for the N, okay? So when we do the print with the objects, what we want to do is we're saying that this object is part of, well, the indices is inside that object, and that object is, it's going to reference the original string, and that's how we print it out. Okay, so you would do a print, right? The variable name, and then instead of using numbers, I can just use the identifier for the range of the indices. Any question? Okay, so that kind of gives you a little bit of information about slice. So for 3, we are given a string called, and the string we should assign it America, land of the free, as it is type, okay? So we have the comma and the period in the declaration or in the assignment of that string. So for A, we want to use index sequencing to display only the substring America. For B, we want to use reverse index sequencing negative in the object to display only free. So from the back, then it makes more sense to use negative value for your index. Okay. Then for C, we want to use index sequencing, and we want to use possibly the object to display the second, the fourth, and every other following the character in the string. So you need to use start, stop, and step, and remember that we would likely use the slice, right, for these. Okay. So any idea on how you would approach A, B, and C? So if I want to slice only for America, what do I do? How many characters is America?
7.
Yeah. So you have to point it to where it's going to cut, right? It's going to slice. So I will show you what I did so you can see. Let me close that one. Okay, so the first part you already saw, that was in the example. Okay, here's the second part, is the number 3. So I put ASTR, that's my variable. I assign America land up for free. Okay, now we can slice 7, like what Michelle was saying. We can slice 7 to only show America, because if you count up the substring America, it contains that many characters. So we slice it with 7. Okay, we stop at 7, which gives you America. Then if we're going backwards, what we can do is we can use 2 arguments. We would use a -5 and a -1, right? Because when it starts cutting, we want to the slice to start at -5 and -1. So here is -1, which is the E, and then we're moving to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So we don't want to do a -4 because that's going to cut off the F. So it'll just be re. So what we want is we want a -5 from -1. So we would do -1 and -5. And the way that it's going to read is it's going to start at -5 and it's going to start, or it start at -1 and it's going to go, or it start at -5 and it goes to -1, sorry. And then we're not doing any optional step for the third argument. So we have free. Okay. Now for the third part, what we want is we want to start at 1 or index 1, which is the second character. And we're going to go all the way to the end of that. And so you can also, you know, with this, I want to use the 3 arguments, start, stop, and the step. So I want to go from 1 and I want to go all the way to the end of that string, the original string, and then we're going to show every other character. So it's going to skip A, right, because we start at A. So it's going to show the M, the R, the C, even the comma, right? And then it skipped the space. It's going to show the L, skip A, show N, skip D, show the space, right? And then skip O, show R, F, and so forth. So it's going to show every other character. And that's what we get.
For that last one, do you have to make the N character 26 so that it includes the period?
Yes, that is correct. Very good.
Okay.
If you make this adjustment to 26, you will get the period. Good point. Yeah, so you can play with it a little bit so you can see, right? If we want to make sure that the period is included, then you can also add that extra index for the position. Otherwise, it's going to cut off it right before. So once I have the container where for the range or each of the slice, then I would print that, but you have to say that, you know, the original string, which is from the variable that we declare and assign a string value, and then for the range we simply bring down the identifier for each of the range, and that way we can print it. Okay. Any question? Okay, so that is my approach, right, for using slice. And, you know, even using slice, there are many ways to do this program. However, right, that's just simply following the example that you see there and utilizing the arguments or the parameter with slice. Okay, so Not too bad, 7 line for number 3. Very quick, short and sweet. Now, another way that we can go about not having to deal with all these, you know, indices and things like that is to use regular expression. So when you start looking into more in depth and on how, and if you took JavaScript, you also learn regular expression and regular expressions in C++. So many, you know, all programming languages, especially when we're dealing with string like this, you would see that we would use regular expression where you would just use a switch with that regular expression and it would take care of a lot of the things. So basically you can create the regular expression and then you can have it where there would be certain characteristics or property of that regular expression which represents, you know, the substring or pieces of the original string. And when you get into programming for things like forms or, you know, text output, even when you take whatever people input and then be able to organize it, clean it up, you would see something like this being used. So that way we don't have a lot of garbage coming into the database for the purpose that we want to maintain the storage space. And we also want to maintain the security part of the application. So it's important to really think about how you design it and the purpose in your design. You know, so in security, a lot of times we check these things is because if you have a lot of, if you give a lot of flexibility in the application itself, you open up room for other areas for people to start tweaking, or error could occur and or bugs could be sitting there. And so we wanted to clean it up. And if we can do it from the start, it's much better. Okay. So that's number 3. Do you have other questions? So we'll come back to regular expression, and then, you know, later on we will start working on regular expression with functions and stuff like that, so you can see a little bit more. Okay. All right. Let's look at the next question. So we learned replace already on Monday. We talk about how we can, you know, change things from taking the content of the original string. It's a way that we would substitute or modify with what's specified. So first, the question 4 asks you to write a Python program that prompts the user to input their full legal name, first, middle, and last name. Okay. Then we would use replace to remove the space between first, middle, and last name. So I would put, you know, Casey, Yang, Wen, and it would take that and it would shrink it, right, where it took out all the white space in it and it will put all the string together, right? So that's what we intend to do, remove all the space between the first, middle, and last name, and then we want to display it. Okay, so that should be an easy one to do. And we can use in the argument, we can use the empty string or the quotation mark, right, by itself, and not give any character assignment in that string in our argument for the parameter, and that will work. So let me get my file open. I'm trying to remember. Remove space name. This is the one. Okay. So really easy, like 2-3 lines. So I have full name is the variable, and remember that we would have an input. So the user would be able to input their full name. And then I want, inside the input, I wanted to specify what I want to prompt the user, so you can be specific, right? Enter your first, middle, and last name. Then I use another variable called add name for edit name. And I would implement the replace method. So I want to take out the space, and notice that I use this to indicate the space. You would do quotation mark, space, quotation mark. That's what we wanted to take out, comma, right? And then quotation mark, quotation mark. No space in between that. That's what we want to replace. Okay. Now, another way that we can do this is we can also use like a for loop where it goes in and it's going to look for every single thing, or we can also, so basically we're seeking the space, we're going to remove it, and then we're going to put in no space. Okay. And then I simply print the edit name. So when I run this, it says enter your first and last name. So I would say, let's say Jane Mary Smith, right? And so it would show me Jane Mary Smith together. It took out the space. Any question? And when you run the program, you should try to test it either using your name or other people's name, whatever you like there. Okay. So it should give me the output with a new string. So the add name is going to contain our new string with the remove, after it removed the space there. And then we want to print it so we can see. Fairly easy, right? Any question? Okay, so we see now how to be able to clean this up, right? Removing spaces. Now, why is this important? Well, what if, we already saw on how we would actually be able to shrink down where you have a lot of spaces when people type, and if they add a lot of space in the comment or reviews or whatever, you can clean it up. Or if you're working with forms, so we can actually control the data that's coming in from the input, right, by supplementing the method, so that way it cleans it up for us. And this is one way, of course, but there are many ways to do that. So always keep in mind that, all of these things, even though it seems very minimal, but when you have millions and lots of users and lots of data, that can be very cumbersome to go in and fix every single one of them, especially for the database people, right? So we want to automate a lot of these things through the way we program and the instructions that we tell the system on what to do, right? So we can clean it up by using some of the built-in functionality in the language to be in the library in order to be able to do that. Okay, so that this is just on a small scale, right? But when you're looking at for larger tech companies and the things that people input, storage space and maintenance costs that's going to be involved. So we wanted to clean it up. All right, let's see. Any question on this exercise? Okay, I didn't touch on membership operator before when we talk about the operators, so I wanted to take this opportunity to bring it forward so that way you know. So when I did cyber camp, I touch on this with the kids and we have a lot of fun with it. We look at ways on how we use the membership operator. So with the membership operator, this is we can use these operators to see if a sequence would contain an object by using in, okay? So if it's, we can see if it's there, and if it's there, then it's going to return true. So if the sequence has that specified value or that specified, or that the object is present, it's going to return true. So the example that I use here is fruits. And fruits is a list. And inside that list, I have 3 strings: apples, oranges, and bananas. And I wanted to display, right, true or false if banana is in that list, fruits. Okay, so we can check to see if specific string is in the list. So in this case, we're checking to see if banana is in this list. So it's going to output true because if it finds a match, right, it says that, oh, it is inside that list. So it's true. But if I misspell the banana here, let's say if I put banan, right, without the last A, it's going to display false because what it's really looking for is the exact match of that string character by character, okay? So if you put apple instead of apples with the S, right, it won't find the match either. So this is a quick way that we can check to see if something is in a collection or in that container, okay? Now we can also use the membership operator not in to see if the sequence of the specified value is not present in the object. So if it's not, if we wanted to see if it's not there, right, then it's gonna say true if it doesn't exist or it's not present. So going back to the example that we just used, fruits, apple, oranges, or fruits contain apples, oranges, and banana. And we wanted to see if grapes is not in fruits, right? And as you know, when you look at this, you said, obviously it's not. So yes, it's going to print out true. But if I do print banana not in fruit, it's going to give me false because banana actually is present in that list. So it would show me false, right? So not in is the opposite of in, where we can validate if something is not there. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
If not a string inside, just the number like 120 something.
Yes, you can do the
So,
same thing with values.
okay.
Yeah, so I can have like, for example, something like this, right? Numbers equal, right? Like let's say if we do list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I can have it check, right? Like print, right? 100 not in numbers. Yeah, it's good. You can do that. You can do something like this. Print, right? 100 not in numbers. And the great thing about Python is that it's mimic the way the speech or the human text. So it's very much like how we would say, oh, is it not in this group, right? So it's a little, syntax is a little easier than other languages. So, okay, question. Okay, so for number 5, this one is a little harder. I want to see if you can rise to the challenge. Given the string no pain, no gain as it is typed, with the comma, the exclamation, the question mark, the exclamation, right? We want to write a Python program that uses replace to remove all the punctuations from the given string. And if you work with regex, right, a regular expression, this is easy, okay? But we want to implement the replace method in this. But remember that there is more than one punctuation in that string. So if you do them one at a time, what's going to happen is you have to write more lines, right? I know that we haven't fully learned all the loops yet, but ideally loop would be perfect for this because it's going to automate a lot of the things, because basically what we're doing is we're going to seek for punctuation mark, like a comma first, right? Excuse me, then the exclamation point, then the question mark, then the exclamation point. We're going to seek for every punctuation mark, and then we're going to take it out. Okay, we're going to replace it with empty string, or just blanks. Okay, so but also we got to nest the condition, the if statement, so that way it will check it. Okay, so you can make this program without using loops. It's just going to be more of a lengthy script. But if we use loop, it will be shorter, and it's going to automate a lot of it for us. So there, we would tend not to make as many mistakes, because if you write more, then you might add or remove things that you don't need. So the hint I put here is that maybe you should consider using a for loop, because it's going to look through the characters inside that original string, and we're going to have it seek for a specific character or symbol and then take it out. And you should also use an if. Okay, so this is a fun one to do, and you have to think about the content of that string, how you're able to access each one, right? So in the for loop, in the regular programming language, like if we compare this into C++, right, we would have a for, and then we would have a start, and then we would have, but you just learn about membership. We want to use membership for this particular program because basically you're going to look for something that's in something else. Okay, so we want to use the membership operator, and it's perfect for this because it's saying, is the question mark in the string, right? We can say, is the comma in the string? If it is, then take it out. So that's what we're doing. So we're going to use a loop to see if it's inside that string. And then if it is, then we're going to remove it or replace it. Okay? Any question with that approach? Okay, so this lab is a little bit harder for me to go about thinking about what we should be doing. That's kind of fun, and it applies some concept and give you some new ones. So I'm going to show you punctuation replace right here. Let's close this. Let's open this one. So here's my program. I have the string assignment for this variable, no pain, no gain, as it is typed. And when you have it look through, you can look for more symbol, right? What if we need to look for more symbol in our string, that the user would input. Okay, so I have the PUNC, the punc here represents punctuation. Okay, and then I said for CH just means that it's like I, right, in the for loop that you see. So for CH in the string, if the characters in the string, or for every characters in that string, if it is, right, replace it with empty string. Okay, so I put for CH in the variable string, right? If CH, it's going to check to see if it's in the punctuation group here. If it is, then replace it with empty string and then print it. So what's going to happen is you're not going to get just one output because it's a for loop. So it's going to look for every single one, and then it's going to try to reprint every time because we have this under the for loop. So you're going to see it multiple times. And at the end, we're going to get the output that we want. Okay, so here we go. Actually, let me reclose this and I'll rerun it so it opens the new shell so you can see. Okay, so the first round it's doing is it took out the comma for the first round here. No pain, no gain. You see that? So it found the comma because the comma is in my punc here. Okay. Then next, the next loop, so that's one round. Round two in the for loop, it's gonna find the exclamation point, and it's gonna say, oh, there it is, right? Since it is in that, it's gonna replace it with, right, nothing there. Okay, so it's gonna take it out. And then lastly, for the third round, it's gonna get the question mark. Since question mark is in punc, it's gonna remove that. Okay. So my final output is no pain, no gain. Okay. Any question? And you can add more punctuation in here and test it and see. So that's what you have with using the for loop. And we'll talk more about the for loop and the components of the for loop, how to have it. But as you see in Python, we would use the colon at the end of that statement. And we simply use the membership operator with this. Okay. Now this is one approach. So I was working on this and my husband walked by and, you know, he's really good in Python. And so he was asking me and I showed him what I was trying to do. And he said, well, you know, there's other ways to do this. And I said, well, but right now this is what my class is covering. So I wanted to keep it where it was thematically, you know, tied to the lesson. And he said, well, you can do remove. There's so many other ways. Yeah, of course, you can do you can have different programs to achieve the same thing, of course. This is how you write it. So this is one way. So I want you to know that. And as you go through, you can come back to this and say, oh, I can write it another way. You can also create functions to be able to do this. You can use, you know, regular expression for this. So there's so many other ways that you can go about achieving the task for this. Okay. Any question? Yeah.
Would this basically be like validation?
Yeah, well, it is.
For Python's version of it?
Yeah. Well, we're just cleaning it up, right?
Okay.
we're not validating anything yet. We're just taking whatever we have and kind of cleaning it up a little bit. So
okay.
yeah, very much like the last one. So if we want to manipulate it so that way the data is in a certain way, you can also use this for validation as well, but this is after the input. You're correct. We're cleaning up the input if you're doing this. Now, yes.
Oh, why does it print the fourth line?
Oh, yeah. So you still have, what happened is when you go through, it's gonna, after it finds a question mark, right? So comma, exclamation point, question mark, and then it's still gonna get through the last part, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's trying to look for another symbol there.
I know how to avoid all that. You could take out the print out of that loop and just take it out, put it outside, and it only print what.
Yeah, I know, but I'm
no.
wondering.
Yeah, I want to know how would I check to know what it's looking for?
Right. That's what you can take it out of that loop and not be able to show that, but I'm trying to see. I think it's looking for a space or after that, because let's see, we have this. Yeah, possibly it's gonna get to here and it finishes that. 1, 2. Oh, it's because, okay. So even if you have 2 exclamation point, yes, did you want something to add?
No, sorry, go, sorry.
Okay. Even though you have 2 exclamation point, it's still 1 round for each. Michelle.
Oh, yeah, right, because of the CH, it does it one at a time.
Yes. Well, because it's still gonna, because the for loop is gonna loop each one for each time.
But then why doesn't it print the exclamation in the
Because you already had it removed when we did the replace.
No, I mean, the replace is what got rid of it. Okay, so if I remove the replace, then I would see it.
Yes. So it's still, because it's pretty simple in the fact that it's still gonna look for it even though it's printing the same thing.
I realized, yes.
Okay. Any feedback, comment, anything you want to add to that? Okay. Yeah, so the position of that print, it does make how the output would be. But I want and intend to show you that with the position there so you see it as it goes through the loop. Any question? Not too long, right? Now, if you do a function for this, you can, create a function name, and then we'll talk about function down the line, how we can have it, check, and also we can implement loop with the function, and then, so technically it will be better to do a function with this, but since we're not there yet, we'll just have to use this for now. So we do a CH in string if CH is in punctuation. So it's gonna check if it is, so that's true. If it's true, then it's gonna replace. questions? Okay, so we talked about membership operator and using the membership operator along with the replace method to be able to remove punctuation there. Okay. And then we're going to do another one that would be a little harder. Okay. So let's say that for number 6, if you're given a string, address 345 and 789 phone, right? Let's say it's a typo or, you know, people input it the wrong way. So how can you clean it up? But in this case, we want to write the program to remove all the numbers, only the numbers. We want to keep the text. Okay. And we can, as we do the replacement for it, right? We can add the space in, or we can keep it no space, however we want to do that. So with the replace, you have the flexibility with that. Another way that you can do this is you can also use the join method. That means that you have to separate it. You can split it and then you can join it back. That takes a little bit more effort. So I decided to use replace since we've been talking about replace and it's easy. But since we talked about split and join, you also have that in your notes. So you can play with it if you want to write the split and join program. Now we also, on Monday, we also talk about an isDigit method, which checks to see if your string contain numbers. So this one will be perfect for us to tie all of these together. And since we just talked about the membership operator, we would use it. And this one, yeah, considerably you should use a for loop with the nested if like the last one. So very much like the last one, instead of looking for the punctuation, we're going to look for numbers and we're going to get rid of it. Okay? Any question as far as what we're going to do for the program? Okay. So let me show you what I did so you can get an idea. And if you want to expand on it or write it with join, you can. It's the replace digit. Okay, so I assign the variable str1 with address 345 and 789 phone. And similar to the last one, what I did was I have a for loop. And I would have the ch, so I set ch in str1. So for that, if it's in str1, if it is a digit, so I do if ch dot is digit, right? I would replace it with an empty string, and then I print it. Okay. Then we would do a join. We would print using join. So here's the join. Okay. So I would have str2 is, right, and here you would need to place it in front of the join, a blank string. Join ch for ch in str1. If not, so I have to use the not operator is the digit. So what join is that we wanted to check to see if the character is in string 1 if it's not a digit. Okay, so here you can see. Let me run that. So again, since it is I'm trying to move it, but let's see if it's gonna work with me here. Anyway, so so first with the for loop, it's going to remove the 3 and then the 4 and then the 5 and then the 7, 8, 9, etc. as it printed out for me, right? So it finishes with address and phone there. Now with the join, I'm still going to have the address and phone, but what I did was I'm still using this variable, but I have another variable to contain the characters that are joined together. So with the join method, I stated that if the for ch in, right, string 1, if it's not a digit, group it together or put it together, and then I would do a print. So now going back to what Cynthia asked at the beginning, and can you achieve something with one line in Python? Sure. In this case, what we can do is we can make it all in one line for the 3-4 lines that we have to write in, you know, other languages. So yeah. So using join, you can also achieve the same thing without having to do this part, right?
I get a syntax error.
Where, what do you mean?
Oh, I think I know why. Just kidding.
Okay. So with the digit, make sure, because this for loop and the if is going to represent the range of what it's for what it's seeking, right? And then what it needs to group together. So that group of characters that needs to be joined together.
Dr. Wen?
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that, oh, well, sorry. Could you, so you can basically make a for loop within a variable and then print that out?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, it's passed through a method actually. So a method is almost like it's still executing. So it's, think of it like a function in C++. So when you pass it into the variable like this, it's still operating inside that method. So it's still operating inside a function. So you can do it that way. Yes.
Oh.
For Python. Python is a lot more lenient in some area, but yeah, but the for loop in this case is it's really part of the execution with the join. Okay, so think of it like in order to join, it has to loop through all of these things. So in C++ or Java, we would write, you know, a function, and then we would have the loops under the function. It's the same exact thing. It's just on one line. The syntax is so in C++, we would have, let's say, a function called join, and then we would have a for loop, and then we would have an if under that, right? And then a print.
Yeah.
So so in this case, what we can do is we can say, okay, so here's the method, and then the parameter for that method is a loop and a nested if.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You're welcome.
I had a quick question.
Yes.
What does the CH, what is it? What is
one
it
in the
for?
front
Like
right
what
here.
variable?
Oh,
no,
that
the one in the loop.
Oh, so CH is like using an I in you know, it's just a variable. So what that does is it's gonna hold every single digit as it looks through for the loop.
Oh, so
Okay, so it's just like,
You
go
can
ahead.
use, yeah, you can use I, you can use J, you can use K, you can use count. You can name it anything you want. It's not like char and yeah. So think of it like if you're familiar with C++ or Java, right? Like when you write your for loop, you will say for I is this, right? It's exactly that in Python. So you would say for, so I can replace it with any name that I want. I can have it for I in, you know, because all that is it represents an index for that character.
Yeah. Okay. That was just what I wanted to make sure. it represented the index in the string.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Any other questions? And you can scale this out. You can make it where, you know, it will be a fun thing to do. If you like programming, you can start tweaking it and making it into something like if you're doing a game or. So again, like I said, this is one way, another way, a regular expression, another way, function, or you can use other method with the built-in library, of course. And you can read the documentation or go to online resources. They have tons of stuff. To be honest with you, when I was thinking about this, I kind of have an idea of what I wanted to have you guys do so you can expand on the concept a little bit. And then I started reading up some stuff online and to see, you know, what people show as examples. So this originated from Geeks for Geeks. I don't know if you see the website, you use that for tutorial. I looked at their stuff and I said, oh, you know, there are a lot of components for using method with strings. So I'm using tidbits of their things and then I modify it and I just create it so you can see there. But, you know, like we said, in technology, there's not really an original concept. It's just somebody else's concept and you improve it. So I learned that when I was doing my doctorate, they made sure that I was clear about that. Because they said that, well, you're not Socrates. You're just going to take somebody's concept and thoughts and improve it. So, you know. Anyway, any question?
Yes.
Yes.
For the string 2 line, can you explain again why you're using the if not?
Yeah. So we're saying that, so for the, let's treat this as an index, right? So for each index in string, if it's not digit, then join it. We're not replacing now. When you do the join, you're just grouping the characters together. I want a set of characters that are just letter, right? To join them together. So with the join method, I'm keeping only the characters. So if it's not digit, then I join it. If it is digit, then I drop it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, you don't have to do the second part. That's just another way to show it. Okay. Okay. All right. Any question with this? You still need time on this? We still have a lot of time left, and then we're going to do one more before we end. Okay. No additional time needed. Didn't hear any objections. So let's do 7, which is using split. This one's easy. So if you're given the string Python, right? And it works out perfectly because they're equal in the number of characters. So we wanted to take the original string and we wanted to make it into 2 subparts that are equal. Now let's say that if you have like, you know, the first part is longer than the other, if we do it like how I wrote this program, it just split it in the middle anyway. Okay. So this requires a little bit of math and the arithmetic operator. We touched on operator a couple weeks ago, right? Like we're gonna look at division round, the double slash, and then the mod for this one. So I want to cut it down the middle, and then I want to have the first part, which is 1 word Python, and then the second part, the second word Python. Okay. Any question as far as the requirement of the program? All right, so now let's open up our program. Okay, so here we go. We have strng1 and we assign it Python, right? And then for the first string, I use another variable called sstring, or sFirst, I'm sorry, sFirst. And then since just kind of like how we slice it down earlier, this is a way that we also slice it down, right? In the notes, we talk about how we can go from index 0 to the length of that string, that means to the end. So what we're going to do is we are going to index it from 0 to the end of it. And then since we're using length is another method, right? Length is a method, we would take that and we would divide it by 2 because we're going to cut it in half. So what we're doing is we're going to index it through the whole string, every character. We're going to take those characters and then we're going to size it down into the half, okay? And the reason why we're using the division this way is that we want a whole number output, okay? So we don't want like the fractional, like a 0.5 something, right? We want it like a whole. So it's either a character or not a character. We don't want it, you know, so this is a way that we can make it where it's equally half, you know, the first half and the second half. So here is my first half. Then here is my second half, okay? So for the string second, again, but in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the whole length of the string and I'm going to cut it down into the half, okay? Now, this is another way that we would write it. So if the length has if the remainder is 0, if it divides evenly, okay, then cut it in half. Else, right, we would take that, divide it in half, and then we do a +1 to it, so that way we would have a complete string. So this is another way that we can cut, you know, the original string in half, okay? So the first part, I got the first half, and then the second part, I simply would use the divided by 2, and then I check for the condition. I want to make sure that it divides evenly. So if it's mod 2 and the remainder is 0, so if you take the number of characters in that string and you divide it by 2, if it is equal to 0, right, then we're gonna have it, it's gonna be stored in s second, and then we're gonna print s second. Otherwise, else, right, we are going to take the length of that string divided by 2, and then we're going to do a +1 because it's following, right, the first one. So it's the second part of that string. So here we go. When we run this, so this one requires a little bit of the algorithm. So I have Python. Okay. So fun to do. Now we also learn split. So if you want, you can also attempt looking into split and how you would use split with this, but you know. So this one mainly used length method. Did I put split down? I think I intended to write it in split, sorry. I'll work on that, I'll give you another example. So, but yeah, so this one mainly used the length method. And the operators. Okay, any questions?
So
yes.
sorry. So that second string, the s underscore second, that's getting the other half of the string?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the first half I have here, right? And then the second half I have. And we want to do a mod 2 here and check to see if it's evenly divided, right? So either way, we force it to have the second Python shown there, or the second Python stored in the second.
Could you explain the else part of the statement one more time?
Yeah. So we check if it divides evenly. If it's not divided evenly, we're going to take the entire length of that string divided by 2, and then we're going to do a +1 here. Why do you think we do a +1 here?
Is that increasing the index?
Yes, because it's also, yeah, following the next, for the next after the first Python. So you would actually have the 1 here is going to be the n+1. So that will give you the print. It's going to store it in s seconds, so you can have the Python. But it's going to meet the if condition here already, because, you know, so if we have 2, 4, 6 character, right? 2, 4, 6 character when it indexed through. So when you mod 2, you get a 0, so it passes anyway here. But in the case where if I have like Python E like this, right? That extra one, because it didn't meet the if condition, it has a remainder, and it's gonna kick it here. So when I divide it by 2, it's gonna round it off. So if I have 7 divided by 2, I have 3.5, and I wanted to round it up to 4 because that would give you the next extra character. Because 3.5 is half of a character. We don't do half of a character. We have to round it up, right? Since it's going to round down, it's going to floor it down to 3. We're going to do a +1, so it adds that next character. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
but do you lose a character in the process?
I'm sorry?
I tried plugging in an extra E, how you did, and it gets rid of the second P.
Oh, the second P for the S second. Let me see. Let me run this real quick to see what you mean. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, because of this right here. Let's fix that real quick. Let me take a look. So it took care of the first one, the second string divided by 2, if length mod 2. Else length string divided by 2. So I have 2, 4, 6, 7. 7 divided by 2, 3.5, 4.5. So that will be 5. So 2, 4, 6. Because it goes to the end, that would take care of the P. So the colon is okay. So I think you have to play with these value right here.
If you don't add anything, it works.
Yeah, of course. But we want to know, right? If you have a longer string. So if I have another E here, let's see. It's gonna shift. It's gonna shift the Y out. I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah, it takes care of that because of the colon. So you're able to show any of the ending character because that colon represents the end of that string anyway, you know? But I think it got rid of the P because it's the first part of it, it's still bringing up, it's rounding off, it's taking the P up to this one is because it bring up that to the S first. 2, 4, 6, 7. It rounds up to 4, and then the other one rounds up to 2, 4, 6. Yeah. So in this case, we have a 7 and a 7. So it's still try to split it evenly, because the first part we have it round up, right? Because when you do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 14 divided by 2, because you have 0 through the end, that will be 13 rounded off. That's still a 7. So you get a 7 there. So here's the 7. And then, yeah, when we round this up. So I think this allows us to really control, you write the index value on how it would start and then end. You see what I mean? Because, yeah, where it would start and it ends. That +1 control the rounding where it would start for the second string and the end. So if you want to tweak it, you have to really take a look at what this value would be, because this just represents an index number. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so let me put it back. Any question? Okay. We finished 30 minutes early. If you finish with everything, go ahead and upload it, your screen captures. If not, you still have time. So let me see. Yeah, I opened this until the 18th, so it's not due for another 2 days. So if you want to spend a little bit more time to play with it a little bit, that's fine. Just get it into me before the end of the week. And don't forget your homework assignment. So it's pretty short. A lot of the questions we went over already in the assignment. So if you have those questions done, you can also upload the question and the answer. We'll have a quiz next week. Okay.
Did you say you were going to do the split function?
Yeah, I'm going to work on that a little bit. I must, I was, I think I meant to do that, and then I got sleepy. I had to do a lot of assessment review yesterday for courses, and then it was, yeah. But I share with you next week. How's that?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so I'll share with you guys on how I would do the split. I'll work on it, and then we'll talk about it next week. But if you want to pre-read, go to the next couple of chapters. So we're going to do 8, 9, which is loop. And we'll do some fun stuff with loop next week. Okay. All right. Put your name in the chat, and just in case, so I can check for your attendance, and have a wonderful rest of the week. I know it's Wednesday, but some of you already finished all your classes today. So, okay. If you have my class at 5, I'll see you at 5.
Have a good day, Professor.
Oh, you too. Thank you.
Quick question. Did you get me down for yesterday? I wasn't able to type my name in the chat. No, not yesterday. Monday.
Yeah, let me check since I'm not in share anymore. You can also see it on your attendance. I don't know if I thought I marked
I can
attendance.
check it real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just curious after you mentioned that right now, the thing about typing in the chat.
No, I pull the Zoom participant list when I do attendance for the class anyway, and then if the person used a nickname, then I try to look in the chat to see if that person typed something, because I have a lot of, this class is not a major issue, but my CIS7 class, they do that. They use like a nickname when they use Zoom, And then, you know, so I don't know who that is in 40 students class, you know, one person. So I have them type in the chat their name, so at least I know who typed that, you know. But sometimes they forget. It's hit or miss for with virtual environment anyway. So, and then if I don't have that, then I have to go to Canvas and I gotta pull the activity, which is like 5 steps before I can get results. Anyway, I got you.
All right, thank you. Have a
You're
nice
welcome.
night.
Okay, thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Have fun building your computer.
I'll let you know the output. I'll share the YouTube.
Okay. Well, yeah, no,
Bye.
I've been taking a peek at the YouTube whenever these pop up.
Okay. All right. See you
Bye.
later.